The hospital room was quiet except for the slow, steady beeping of a heart monitor. Soft sunlight slipped through the window, painting a warm glow across the pale walls. On the bed near the window lay a thin young girl named Emily. She was only 15 years old, yet her eyes carried a depth that many people never find in a lifetime. Emily had been fighting a rare illness for almost 3 years. Doctors had tried everything they could. Treatments, surgeries, and endless medications. Her parents had never left her side, hoping and praying for a miracle. But as the weeks passed, the doctors grew more silent. Their hopeful words slowly turned into gentle apologies. One evening, the doctor finally spoke the words no parent ever wants to hear. He said Emily's body was too weak now. There was nothing more they could do. Emily's mother broke down in tears while her father stood silently beside the bed, holding his daughter's fragile hand. But Emily surprised everyone. Instead of crying, she smiled. Her voice was soft, but calm. She said she had one last wish. She wanted to sing. Singing had always been Emily's greatest love. Ever since she was a little girl, music had been her way of expressing feelings she could never explain with words. When she sang, people stopped and listened. Teachers at school used to say her voice felt like sunlight after a storm. But as her illness grew worse, Emily had stopped singing. Her lungs had grown weak, and even speaking sometimes made her tired. Yet on that quiet evening, Emily looked at her parents and whispered that she wanted to sing one more song before she said goodbye. Her parents looked at each other through tears. It hurt to hear her talk like that, but they also knew how much music meant to her. So her father nodded. The next morning, something unusual began to happen. The nurse who had overheard Emily's wish told another nurse. That nurse told a doctor. Soon the entire hospital staff knew about the young girl who wanted to sing one final song. And something inside their hearts moved them. By afternoon, the hospital arranged something special. They brought a small microphone into Emily's room and placed a chair beside her bed. One of the nurses even brought a small speaker so her voice could be heard down the hallway. When Emily saw what they had done, tears filled her eyes. Not tears of sadness. Tears of gratitude. Her parents helped her sit up slowly. She looked weaker than ever, but there was a strange brightness in her eyes. Outside the room, doctors, nurses, and patients quietly gathered in the hallway. Some stood, others leaned against the walls. Everyone had heard about Emily. No one wanted to miss her song. Emily took a slow breath. For a moment, it looked like she might not have the strength. Her mother gently held her hand. Her father whispered that he was proud of her. Emily closed her eyes. Then she began to sing. At first, her voice was soft and fragile, like a small candle flickering in the wind. But as the melody continued, something incredible happened. Her voice grew stronger. Clearer. Warmer. The hallway outside the room became completely silent. Nurses stopped walking. Doctors paused their rounds. Even patients slowly stepped out of their rooms to listen. Emily was singing a song about hope. About light shining through darkness. About believing in tomorrow even when today feels impossible. The words were simple, but the emotion behind them was overwhelming. Inside the hallway, people began to cry. One nurse covered her mouth with her hand as tears streamed down her face. A doctor who had worked in hospitals for 20 years felt his chest tighten with emotion. Even strangers who had never met Emily before could feel the power of her voice. It was not just a song. It was a message. A message that life, no matter how short or painful, could still be beautiful. As the final verse approached, Emily's voice trembled slightly. Her breathing grew heavier. Her mother stepped closer, worried she might collapse. But Emily gently shook her head and continued. Then something happened that no one expected. At the end of the song, Emily lifted her eyes toward the window where sunlight poured into the room. Her voice rose into one final note. A long, beautiful note filled with every ounce of strength she had left. And suddenly the heart monitor beside her began to beat faster. The nurse looked at the screen. Her eyes widened. Emily's oxygen level, which had been dangerously low for days, was suddenly rising. The doctor quickly stepped forward and checked the machines again. It was not a mistake. Emily's breathing had become stronger. Her heartbeat steadier. The doctor frowned in disbelief. Just hours ago her body had been shutting down. Now it was stabilizing. Emily finished the final note of her song. The room remained silent for a few seconds. Then the hallway erupted into quiet applause. People clapped through tears, overwhelmed by what they had just witnessed. Emily looked confused. She felt something strange in her chest. Not pain. Warmth. For the first time in weeks, taking a breath did not hurt. The doctor quickly ran more tests. Minutes passed. Everyone waited anxiously. Finally, the doctor turned toward Emily's parents. His voice trembled. He said he had never seen anything like this before. Emily's condition had suddenly improved. Not just slightly. Significantly. Her lungs were functioning better. Her oxygen levels had stabilized. Even her heart rate looked healthier. It made no medical sense. Emily's mother whispered only one word. Miracle. Over the next few days, Emily's strength slowly returned. She began sitting up more often. She could speak longer without becoming tired. And sometimes, quietly, she even hummed little melodies. Doctors continued running tests, searching for an explanation. But none of them could fully understand what had happened. Some said it might be a rare spontaneous recovery. Others believed the emotional power of the moment had triggered something deep within her body. But Emily believed something simpler. She believed hope had healed her. Weeks later, Emily was strong enough to leave the hospital. The same hallway where people had once gathered to hear her final song was now filled with smiles as she walked slowly beside her parents. The nurses who had cried during her performance now hugged her goodbye. Even the doctor who had once said there was no hope smiled in amazement. Before leaving, Emily turned back toward the hospital room where she had sung that unforgettable song. She whispered softly that music had saved her life. Years passed. Emily grew stronger and healthier than anyone expected. Her voice remained just as beautiful as it had always been. Eventually, she began performing in small concerts and charity events, singing for hospitals and children facing serious illnesses. Every time she stepped onto a stage, she told the same story. The story of the day she thought it would be her last. The day she sang one final song. And the day something incredible happened. People often asked Emily if she truly believed it was a miracle. She always smiled and answered the same way. Sometimes miracles are not loud or flashy. Sometimes they begin with something as simple as a song filled with hope. A song that reminds the world that even when life feels like it is ending, a new beginning might be waiting just around the corner. And somewhere in a quiet hospital hallway, a group of doctors and nurses would always remember the day a dying girl sang one last song. And somehow, against all odds, her voice brought life back with